I'm Egbert, the owner of this station. Check out my website at egbert.com. That's EGGBURT, egbert.com. Now it's back to Brad and John. Check out their website at bjshow.co. The BJ Show? Come on, guys. Anyway, here's B and J.
You know, John puts up with me a lot of different things. I go off on tangents. John times tries to reel me back out. Yeah, I can't talk. John tries to reel me back in at times, and sometimes he's successful, sometimes he's not. There's things that happen that I just shake my head and I go like, okay, I don't quite understand. I'll give you one of them. Can I tell you the story, John?
Oh, yeah, please do.
I have to go down to St. Louis County to take care of some business in the executive building, which the top floor is where Sam Page sits, okay? So I get off of 170 at Ladue, and if you know anything about that area, you get off at 170 at Ladue, and you go about 1,000 feet, and all of a sudden you're in Clayton, and the road changes the name from Ladue to Maryland, okay? You go a couple more blocks, and then when you get into sort of the core area of Clayton, it used to be 4 lanes of traffic on Maryland, okay? They've done this goofy, crazy, weird stuff where they put in bike lanes against the curb, and when you park on the street, you park like 10 feet into what used to be the right traffic lane. Does that make sense? In other words, what they've done is
that's true. It's miserable.
They've reduced the traffic lanes from 4 lanes to 2 lanes, and I never, ever, 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 ever see anybody riding a bike in those bike lanes, okay? So, and now you got to go through Clayton, and I think to myself, okay, I got to go to the courthouse, but I got a letter to mail, I got it in the car. I'll just go through the post office real quick and drop this in the drop-off, the little things out there in front of the post office. You pull in, you go to the left, you drop it in the little mailbox outside, and then I'll go right and I'll go over to the government center, okay? So it takes me forever to get through Clayton on Maryland because, once again, it's down to 1 lane in each direction. There's a fair amount of traffic. Plus, they're doing construction work, and they're building another expensive high-rise condo and apartment building in Clayton where they knocked down all the original buildings, which gave Clayton that really cool sort of like mix of high-rise and low-rise, 40, 50, 60, 80-year-old buildings, okay? So I get to the post office, turn into the lane to drop off my mail into the mailboxes, and they're gone. They've taken the mailboxes.
You're kidding me.
No, they're gone. They've taken the mailboxes out. You can no longer drive through in Clayton and put your mail in the. And once again, if you've ever been to that post office is super busy. Sometimes there's lines coming out the entrance with people queued up to go through that lane. There's 2 lanes. The lane to the right, you go, you park, and the lane to the left is where and they've got it actually, with like curbs in there. So you get in that lane to the left, and they've got the mailboxes with that snoot that sticks way out, that you can drop the thing from your car.
Yeah.
They're all gone. The mailboxes are gone. So, and I know people are going to say, well, why don't you, lazy butt, why don't you get out of your car and walk in? Okay, here we go again. This is our wonderful government, and, Postal Service is part of the government, although they claim they're not. Okay, they have an underground parking garage in Clayton for the vehicles, okay, for all the postal vehicles. That is, they used to park in the underground parking garage until they got all new high roof vans. The vans don't fit in the parking garage anymore. So they have to park.
You're kidding me.
No, this is a true story. The vans don't fit in the parking garage anymore because now when you go to the Clayton post office at night or on the weekends, the entire parking lot, which is for the customers, is filled with Postal Service vans. And even during the day when all the Postal Service vans aren't out there, the customer parking lot has several Postal Service vans in it because they won't fit in the parking garage underneath the building anymore. And so, in other words, it's not like you can just jump out, walk in, and drop your mail in a mailbox. No, you have to park on the street. And once again, you have to park in the goofy, stupid lanes that are offset from the curb so you don't, so the bicyclists can drive through Clayton. Of course, there's never any bicyclists. And I'm going like, okay, now, I have a friend of mine that knows about this. And I call him and I go, okay, explain to me the Clayton thing. And he says, well, there's one of 2 things. He says, I'm not sure exactly what happened in Clayton. He says, but this is a problem. Matter of fact, you've probably seen this in the news. They had the problem with the Chesterfield post office where people were going into the boxes at night and yanking letters out and stealing checks and, and taking birthday money from grandma and grandpa that put a $10 bill for little Jimmy in the mail and stuff like that. He said one of two things happened. He says either they've just decided that they're not going to do that because of theft, or, and get ready for this, he says some of the post offices have had the employees complain that they don't want to go outside to empty out the boxes anymore because A, it's hot in the summer, B, it's cold in the winter, C, they can get rained on, and D, they just don't want to go outside the building because it's unsafe. So I'm going like, okay, let me think about this for a minute. If this were McDonald's, and they'd say, hey, we used to have those double drive-thrus. We're going to knock it back down to one, and we're only going to allow 2 cars in line, and we're going to have somebody on the parking lot. So if you're the third car, you're going to get waved off. You're going to have to drive around the building until there's only 2 cars in the drive-thru. Okay? Why would that never happen, John? Why would that never happen?
Because McDonald's is a for-profit company, and the government has no incentive to be efficient or provide good customer service.
Exactly. Thank you so much. So it's to the point where it's like they complain that nobody uses the mail anymore, but yet they make it hard to use. And it's gotten to the point where like every 2 months, even to the point where and I still go to the post office quite often. I have a post office box, and I know some of the people work there, and once again, most of the people that work at the post office are nice folks. I'm not besmirching them. But it's to the point where when you go in there, what's their line? Like almost every time, the forever stamps are going up next week. You can buy them now. I'm thinking to myself, John, here's where you blew your investment. I know you're Mr. Investor, okay? When the forever stamps first came out, I think when they first came out, the stamps were like 30 or 40 cents or something like that. They're up to, I think they're in the 70 cents range now, okay? John should have liquidated all of his assets, taken every money he's got in all his accounts, and just bought hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe, John, millions of dollars worth of forever stamps, and then sit on your stamps, for 2-3 years, and then set up a little table in front of the post office. Hey, forever stamps inside. They're 72 cents. Get them while they last. I got them for 68. And people go, oh my God, that's a discount. But yet you bought them for like 35. See, that's
what a profit, Mark. And you know what? The best part about it is the post office employees wouldn't catch me selling them outside the post office because they don't leave the post office.
They don't go outside.
It's either too hot or too cold or too windy or too rainy, or sometimes the barometric pressure is too much to bear.
Remember, there used to be that thing. What was the motto? No matter rain, sleet, snow.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Going like, not anymore.
It's incredible.
Remember,
Brad, it sounds like what you're telling us is that you're going to park at that Schnucks at Ladue, which, by the way, I've heard has gone really downhill. I know somebody that went there like a year ago, and they're like, oh my God, you never want to go to that Schnucks anymore. It used to be a great one. But what you're saying is you're going to drive there and then get your bike out and then ride down Maryland.
Now,
right?
hold on.
Because that's just much easier.
I go to that Schnucks from time to time. Matter of fact, I like that Schnucks because I won't say what I'm going to say.
Oh, here, Corey Bush isn't going to like your story. I know where you're going. Tell it, Brad.
No, I'm not going to say it. Okay.
You're sponsored by APAC and you're a Zionist. You might as well tell the story.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it. Okay, rant number 2. Okay, I am so sick and tired of these stupid real estate agents, okay? Can I give you 3 stories? I'll give you 3 stories, okay?
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine who's constantly looking for another home. I mean, this person is like, they're like habitual homeowners. They buy a house, they live in it, they fix it up, they live in it, and they're not fixing it up to flip it, they're just fixing it up to make it just like they want it. And then it's time for another house, okay? This particular person tells me the story that she went to a open house over the weekend, a house in St. Charles, okay? And this sort of a bizarre, weird story where the house was listed for $350,000, okay? And she talks to the agent, and the interesting thing about the house was on the market, and then it disappeared off the market for about a week, and it's back on the market. So she says to the agent, are you the same agent that had it on before? And the agent says, yes. And she said, well, how come it was off the market for a week? And here's the answer. The house was listed for $350,000. They got an offer for asking price. In other words, they're asking $350,000. Someone came along and said, I will write you a contract for $350,000. And the owners of the house said, no, we won't accept that. We want more than $350,000. So
that's par for the course today, right, Brad? I mean, I don't mean to interrupt, but if you're buying a house, you have to provide over whatever the listing price is.
But, John, see, once again, it's a stupid game, okay? And there's a guy by the name of, and matter of fact, I still think I play the podcast at midnight, and I'm not making fun of the guy, but he used to be in the radio business, and his name is Mike Swearingen, and he started his own real estate firm, and he's out in, I think he's out in O'Fallon or something like that. And I had a discussion with him. Matter of fact, we did an interview, sort of like the same thing where I did an interview with him in our old studios there in St. Peter's. And I brought this up to him. I go, Mike, this is a charade. Well, we're taught to, price the houses accordingly. And my response was, okay, you're in a neighborhood where the houses are selling for $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. List the house for $1 million. And he about fell off his chair. Whoa, why would we do that? I go, think about it for a minute. If you go to the car dealership and the sticker says $100,000 and the car dealer says, well, you know what? We're entertaining offers on this car. And you say, I'll give you $75,000 for it. And the guy says, sold. Okay. Immediately he goes, you've knocked $25,000 off the price. Okay. If you list the house for $1 million and Joe Homebuyer shows up and goes, oh, $1 million, I can't afford $1 million. My top is $750,000. Sold. Get what I'm saying? I mean,
I do.
And that person walks away going, oh my God, I got a hell of a deal. I got $250,000 off a listing price. But instead, it's this stupid thing when we're going to put a house on the market and then we're going to entertain offers and we're going to have everybody blah, 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 blah. And it's like a stupid little game. Matter of fact, I remember Mark Reardon had the guy who's one of the Gelman brothers on, and they're talking about this. And I can't remember the name of the Gelman brothers, but Gelman brother A is talking about this. And he says, well, one day we got a call from a dissatisfied person who complaining about the fact that they put in a bid for $150,000 over asking price, and they want to know why they didn't get the house. And I called the guy back and I said, well, the reason you didn't get the house is because we got a bid for $175,000 over listing price. So in other words, it's a game the real estate agents are playing. Let's see how much more we can get over listing price. Okay. But when I said this to Mike Swearingen, he looked at me like I was like an alien. Why would we list a $500,000 house for $1 million? Okay, why would you list a $500,000 house if you think it's going to go for $600,000 when people are going to, is this like a game? So you can go back to your seller and go, oh, look what I did. We listed it for $500,000.
Probably. And that probably helps if you're able to tell people or have a testimonial that says, hey, this guy did a great job because I thought we were only going to get this and we got that. But Brad, why do you why does the fact that this is, it's clearly a ridiculous game, but why does it bother you so much?
Because of the fact that what they're doing is they're pushing the market to the point where, and I say this right now, I don't want to be Mr. Doom and Gloom. I don't know what's going to happen in November. You don't know what. I do think I know what's going to happen in November. It's going to be, we're going to have, Kamala and Mr. The guy who's
the tampon guy.
Yeah, Tampon Tim, as they're now calling him. If you know the story is he was behind this bill to have tampon dispensers put in the boys' restrooms from grade 4 up. I'm going like, okay, whatever. I just don't understand this. Okay, but here, let me give you rant C part of the real estate. Okay, another friend of mine, her son recently bought a house. Okay, first-time home buyer. And where did he buy a house? In Webster. He's so happy about living in Webster. I guess he's one of the hipsters.
He's not voting for Donald Trump.
Okay, so she calls me the other day to ask me if I know a good electrician. And obviously I said, yeah, call Caleb at Stream Electrical. I go, what's going on? And I said, you have problems at your house? No, this is my son's house. What's the problem? Well, he's got all these problems with the electrical, and he's got problems with outlets. And I go, didn't he just buy that house? And she says, yeah. And I go, well, didn't he even inspect it? And the answer was no. And do you know why he didn't have it inspected?
Because I'm sure the cost was prohibitively expensive.
No, because the real estate agent told him not to have it inspected because there would be too many things that were going to be found wrong. And if he really wanted that house, he'd take it as is, because if he went in there and had an inspector say, well, this outlet's bad, and this outlet's bad, and this outlet's bad, and this plumbing doesn't look right, and this is not up to code, that then she would have to go back to the seller and go, well,
that might make the seller mad, is what you're saying.
And the deal would fall apart. So in other words, the real estate agent, and the interesting thing it is, this is in Webster, and after the fact, they need a occupancy permit, and the first thing that happens is when the inspector from Webster comes in and says, you don't have GFCI outlets in the bathroom, you don't have GFCI outlets in the kitchen, and he was like, well, I need those? Yes, they're required under a code, and we can't let you move in until the GFCI outlets are put in. So in other words, and here's a young guy, first house, he's stuck with all these expenses going like, okay, I don't think I would have bought this house if I would have had it inspected. But the real estate agent said, oh, don't have it inspected because that might blow up the deal and I won't get my commission. Get what I'm saying?
I do. And you know what? So isn't that the response? I'm not being a jerk, but isn't that your friend's son's responsibility? Like, it sounds like he just made a bad decision and he was desperate. And imagine, Brad, I mean, this is definitely not you. Imagine you saying to somebody, or imagine you thinking, well, I don't want to ask that question because they might be offended and they might think that I want to get a good deal. Like, where are you in life if you don't want to ask a question like, hey, can we have these outlets inspected? Because you might offend the seller and then might not get the house.
Well, see, once again, you know, I look back in my life, and there are things that I think to myself, okay, that was a mistake. And I look back at my first house, and, you know, and we did have an inspection. This is going way back, 1980. He did an inspection, and there were some things that came up that were like, I'm not going to push that. You know, I mean, it's to the point where I can fix that myself,
sure,
that kind
obviously.
of stuff. Okay, but what I'm saying is the real estate agents should be in the position where they are looking out for the buyer and seller, not looking out for their commission. Get what I'm saying? I mean,
I do. But I mean, don't you think that's a little bit naive, Brad?
John, I'm the world's worst naive guy in the world. I'm the guy that still, when I got my job as a curb boy at Steak and Shake, I thought 99.9% of the people were nice people. And I learned my lesson that probably 80 to 85% of the people I waited on at Steak and Shake were nice people. There were 10% of them that were like, not so nice. And there are 5% of them that were AHs, if you know what I'm saying, okay?
I did.
They were anal orifices, okay? And that's sort of the way life is. Anybody who works with the public knows there are nice people, and the majority of the people are nice, but you have people that it's all about them. You know, the world revolves around them. And unfortunately, and I say this right now because I think this is a good percentage of the quote-unquote younger generation, the 30-minus crowd, especially if you watch any kind of, you know, social media. The world revolves around them. You know what I mean? It's all about them. It's all about them. Look at me. Look what I'm doing. Look what I went to, you know, and it's to the point where look at the stuff you see in the media. Okay, if McDonald's opens up a new restaurant, nobody cares. If Shake Shack opens up a new restaurant, it's on the front page of the Post-Dispatch. You know what I'm saying?
Except in St. Louis. They don't have a very good team in St. Louis. I don't know why when they promote things like Lambert Airport opening, there's never, it seems, any good PR. They do such good PR in other cities. Brad, real quick, based on real estate, we just got a text. A guy from Lifestyles Unlimited, some guy named Dell, says that if you talk like that in Florissant, he's going to punch you in the nose, just like he used to beat up the Egan gangs in Florissant. It was rough. It was rough, Brad, and stop calling my office. I took one call from you years ago, and you've been talking about it for years, and I'm tired of it. Don't besmirch the real estate industry.
That's a very
If you sold more houses, you could buy a new studio out in Wentzville, so shut up.
Right next to Tracy's, right? Okay. We'd have 2 used car dealerships be off the market then. Okay, we have to take a break.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?